and welcome to Flock Talk. Today we're going to be doing a little video on how to desensitize birds to their environment so they don't have to be so scared of everything. I'm going to be using Mia today because Mia is the most skittish little scaredy bird I have. And we're just going to be going over and explaining what to do if you have a bird that's really scared of things. Maybe they're scared of your hands, maybe they're scared of a new perch or a new toy, and how you can start to teach your bird that those things really aren't that scary and that they can be quite fun. So we're going to hop right into it. I'm not really sure where I'm going to put Mia yet, but we'll figure it out. We'll find a place for her to be, and I'll find something she's really scared of and show you guys the process of slowly teaching Mia that this thing that she's really terrified of isn't going to be so scary. So all I'm going to do to start right now is give Mia a bunch of little treats. What I'm using today is sunflower seeds that I've thrown into a food processor and broken up into really fine chips. This way she can eat them really fast, and they're a really high value reward for her. Sunflower seeds are really fatty, so she's going to be more willing to work through her fears and things that may stress her out a little bit in order to earn this reward, because I know it's one of her favorites. The more high value thing you have for your birds, something that you know they love, is going to be the best thing to be using for this, just because they're going to be working through a lot of things that are scary, a lot of things that are going to go against what they naturally want to do. So the more value you have in your reward, the easier it's going to be for them to work for it. So with Mia here, I'm just giving her a bunch of treats. I want her to know that where we are right now is really safe, really happy, because she's got a lot going on right now. She's in one random perch in the middle of the room in a wide open space. This is her space, this is her room, so this is somewhere she should be quite confident in. She can fly, so she can leave if she doesn't feel comfortable or confident in anything. She has those choices. She's also getting used to the fact that there's a camera in her room. She's not a huge fan of the tripods, so I want to make sure that that's not going to be a factor with her today. I want her to know that she's really safe, she's really happy. She can leave if she doesn't feel safe. This is completely her choice to be here. But ideally, we're going to have her at a point where she doesn't feel scared, where she would even want to leave. Really, when it comes to desensitizing birds to things, if they're trying to run away and they're trying to fly away, or they go the other way and they're trying to be aggressive and attack the thing that you're holding, it means you've gone too far. Realistically, a bird should never be put in a point where they're so stressed out that those are the responses they have to have. You want to desensitize your bird in steps that are slow enough where really the only thing you're going to see is a little bit of shift in their body language, but they shouldn't feel the need to leave. However, if you're doing this and your bird does feel the need to leave, do not trap them. Don't stop them from leaving. I try to avoid doing things like this actually in a cage, because then they really can't get away, and I find that you have a higher tendency to push them past the normal boundaries and really kind of force them into submission in those situations. Whereas in this situation, Mia can leave, she can fly, she can do whatever, she can go out the door and completely leave this room, and she doesn't want to be here. This way I know that I'm not pushing her past her normal boundaries and she's in complete control of the situation. When it comes to dealing with fear in animals and in birds in particular, you really want to make sure that they feel safe and they feel in control, because when they don't, that's when you're going to start getting aggression, that's when you're going to start getting some major fear responses that you might have a lot of difficulty undoing later if you don't take the steps slow enough. Okay, so we're going to get started here. I have something in my hand that I know Mia's already scared of. I'm actually just going to move her away from here so I can show it to you guys. So I've got this bright pink, just a piece of balsa wood. However, Mia's shown to be quite scared of it before, and you guys can't see her, but right now she's actually looking down on me with a really wide eye, telling me that she doesn't like what I have in my hand. So that's why I moved her away, because the last thing I want is to bring this up here and have her be right here, immediately get startled, fly away, and have a really negative experience with this. So with that said, I'm going to start with this quite far away from her. I'm actually going to start with her being up there right now, knowing that I have it, and not even actually having to see it. So I'm going to move it way off camera, and we're going to start from there. So I'm going to start with the pink thing just here. You can see her body language shift a little bit. She's still curious, she's still willing to take treats. Basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reinforce anytime Mia looks at this. So what I'm doing right now is actually called counter conditioning, and basically it's counteracting her brain's natural response and giving it a new thing to think about. So her natural response when she sees this is to be scared. So as I move it a little closer, you can see her kind of lean away. You can see her eyeing it up and not really knowing how to feel about it. Whereas if I move it a little too close, you see that lean, you see her freeze, you see that little jump. That's her going, I don't like this, I'm gonna leave, I don't wanna be here. Thankfully, Mia's in a calm enough position right now where she was actually okay with me getting that close. I thought she was gonna book it way sooner, but she didn't. But basically, when she sees this thing, her brain is going, I don't know what that is, scary. And her brain's going, object, scared, leave. So what I'm trying to do is hold this thing here, get me to look at it. Good. And give her a treat just for making eye contact with it. So that's me using a treat to guide her eyes towards it. She looks at it. Good. I'm also not using a clicker for this because I know a lot of you guys with scared birds probably don't have one or don't use them because that noise is probably quite jarring to them and quite unsettling. So I'm just using the word good. Mia's familiar with my voice. Little happy tones will make her more comfortable. So that's what I'm going with. So I'm just going to guide her eye to it. Good. Anytime she looks at it, just giving her a treat. And what this is doing is it's basically rewiring her brain into going, this object, I see it, good. It means a treat's coming. And as you can see, I've already moved quite a ways of distance with this and move a little closer. Good. Oh, sorry. So now that she's a little stressed out in general, she's had no problem with me sticking my hand in my treat pouch, but because she's already a little stressed out, good. With what I'm doing, any jarring noises and some things like that are going to make her a little more jumpy. So you just want to be careful that when you're doing these things that you're not doing what I just did and slamming your hand into your pouch or rustling a bag that might freak them out. Good. Just because it's going to make them a little more unsettled and it's going to basically set the brain back a bit. Now as I'm doing this, good. If I notice Mia's body language shift too much and I see her get too stressed out, I'm going to stop and I'm going to move this back. Because basically if she's stressed out and she's not wanting to take treats or she's wanting to leave, good. Then I've gone too far and she's not learning. Once the brain shuts down and hits that fear response, there's no progressing it anymore. The brain will get stuck and it will not want to learn. You need to be in a state, good, where the bird is comfortable and relaxed in order for them to actually be learning. If they're too stressed out, they're basically zoned out, not picking up anything. Is that good? So Mia's actually doing really good. She's not seeming to be too scared of this. Is it? Good. So you can see she got a little scared there. Her body kind of froze up and she started to open her beak in a bit more of a defensive manner. If she was more curious, she would have stayed a little more fluffed and she would have reached out for this no problem. But the way that she kind of froze and opened her beak is actually a little bit of aggressive behavior. It's actually defensive. That's her going, I don't know what you are, I don't like you, I'm gonna open my beak and tell you that I will hurt you if you come close. So that tells me that I'm moving a little bit too fast and I need to just kind of stay where I am or back up a little bit. Ready? Good. So another thing I'm going to do to help make this a little easier is I'm going to put this below her. Birds find a lot of comfort from being higher than things. So by having her a little bit higher and this a little lower, she won't feel like it's coming right at her or looming over her or being aggressive in any way. This way she's the one on top, she's the one kind of in the more, not dominant, but the more useful position, I guess. It just helps her feel a little bit more confident in what's going on here. So you can see her body language, she's a little thinned out, good. She's a little unsure, good. I'm so just going to reinforce anytime she looks at this, good. You can see her, I'm not sure, you might not be able to get the fine details that I can get, but I can see her eyes kind of shifting, and she gets just this more kind of concerned, worried look, good. As this thing approaches her, so I'm just going to leave it right here because she is a little uncomfortable. Good. But she's not so freaked out that she's thinking about leaving quite yet. As long as she's willing to work and she's willing to learn, good. It can stay there. Good girl. So another thing that's going to help here is I'm going to kind of push her boundaries and take it away. So I'm going to put it close. Good. Wait for a little bit of that stress behavior to show up, just that little bit of freezing or thinness and really eyeing it up. And then I'm going to give her a treat and take this away. The act of removing this is also going to be reinforcing for her because it does make her uncomfortable. So in that she's learning that the object is acknowledging her body language. She knows that she's scared. She can just say that she's scared and it's going to go away. She knows that it's not going to come at her. It's not going to freak her out. And by just tolerating it for that second, it can leave. The act of that removal of stress is going to be a big help in teaching her that, you know, she can tolerate things, but she doesn't have to push herself too far. As soon as you kind of start making them have to do things and making them have to tolerate what you feel is a correct level of stress is when you're going to really start running into problems. Good. So as we're hitting kind of closer to her body, I'm just making sure to retract this towards me every time, just because she can get freaked out. Good. So you see how quickly she jerked her head back there? That was actually quite good. That's her telling me that she's willing to work for the seed. I was making her reach towards the object a little bit, but she's still too uncomfortable to want to touch it because she's going to reach forward. She's willing to go near it herself and take it, but she doesn't feel safe enough to kind of linger around there, so she has that freedom to back up and retract herself. We're just going to keep doing that now, so I'm going to start kind of luring her towards the object. Because this entire time the object is moving towards her, that in itself can be quite scary. So I'm just going to hold it at the distance she's been okay with, and I'm going to get her, good, to bring herself towards it and just see how close she's willing to get. With this, it's kind of nice because she's making the decision completely. I could hold the treat here and she could say, no way, I don't want to go that close, I don't want anything to do with it. And that'd be a very easy way for me to say, okay, she's not ready to be that close, and move the seed a little further away, move the stick a little further away, make the decision based on her body language. So, you almost done the seed there? Is that a big one? Okay, so you got the object, good. Let's see how close she's willing to get. So she's not comfortable with that, but that's okay, because she still tried. She still put her head close to it, so we're gonna give it to her. Good, so that distance she's totally comfortable with. She walked towards it, she took the seat, no problem. So we're going to try a little closer. Wait for her to be done her delicious snacks. Okay. Good. So that was quite close, that was pretty good. It's probably about an inch and a half away. Try again. Good. So she did grab the treat quite quickly that time. But she still stayed quite fluffy. She didn't deflate herself, and she didn't try and run away. Good. You can see every time she's actually looking at it before she comes close, and that's good because that's her looking at the object and deciding that it's safe enough to come within this distance. Look at you go, good girl. With these little segments here, as I'm getting closer and making this her decision, I'm also making the treats a little bit bigger. I give her several small pieces or just one really big one. And that's just helping her realize that it's more worth it to go closer, whereas going further away, she just gets littler treats. Look at that, you almost touched it. Good girl. And basically those are jackpots, is what that's called when you give them a really large reinforcement for doing something incredibly well. The more she repeats that same behavior, I make the treat smaller and smaller. Good, look at you, good girl. Okay, let's see if she's willing to touch it this time. Touch. Good. So she didn't touch it, but I can see her getting a little stressed out and she pushed through it still anyways, so I'm gonna give it to her. Good, good girl. So she didn't touch it, but you did see her beak kind of open towards it, so she considered it. That's something I'm going to reinforce. I'm going to reinforce her trying and her making the effort and her taking the right steps towards it. So can you touch? What I might actually do is actually put the seed right on top of it. Good, good girl. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put little seeds right on the top of the stick. Wait for her to be done. Look at you, good girl. Good girl. Not a problem at all. Can you touch? Good. Not so scary, eh? Oh, sorry, not too close. Can you touch? So as you can see there, I asked her to touch it and she said no way. Her body language shifted, she stood up a little more and backed up. She went, no, I don't want to touch it, I'm not okay with that right now. Just because she touched it before doesn't mean she's okay with it 100% of the time. She's going to backtrack a little bit as she makes her own decisions and kind of changes her mind on how she really feels about things. So we're going to have to take some steps back. Ask her to touch again. And kind of see where she goes from there. Good! If you decide to push them through those things where they've said, I'm uncomfortable, I'm scared, I'm not okay with this, and you push them through it, it's going to make the problem worse. Basically, you're teaching them that the object is indeed scary then. If they're going, oh, I'm scared, and it keeps coming towards them, or oh, I'm scared, and they have no choice, they just learn that it's scary, and it just reinforces the fact that it's scary. Whereas if they show you that it's a scary object, and they're uncomfortable with it, and you back it up and you take a few steps back, it changes the mindset a little bit and helps them realize, oh, hey, I was scared, but nothing bad happened, so maybe it's not so scary after all. And just keep going like this. You touch. Good. And Mia's not really concerned about this anymore. She's still a little bit worried about the environment and the noises because I keep crunching my pouch a little bit and that's making her scared. So she's not 100% good. She's not 100% comfortable, but she is no longer terrified of this to the point where she's eyeballing me from across the room for having it. She's touching this, no problem now. Hey, what's that? You touch. That's it. Good. So she actually took some steps towards it that time, and that's huge for birds. When they're scared, they freeze up most of the time. They don't want to be spotted by a predator, and if flying away isn't an option, they'll just stop moving. So Mia, can you touch? Mia wanting to actually take those steps towards it, that's okay. Is a big step in showing me that she's getting less and less stressed with this. She's just going to go get a drink of water. So what you're going to actually notice happen, and this is a good example, is she just went and took a break. She went and got a drink of water. Totally fine, she can do that. Not going to stop her from drinking water. She can get filled up with seeds. But because she's had that break, her brain is also probably going to take a few steps back. Because what kind of happens is they sort of forget in their brain, it still isn't reprogrammed per se. So she's probably not going to want to touch this right off the hop, and I'll have to do a few more steps getting her there. To a point where she'll be comfortable with it. Just because she was touching it before, she left and took a 5-second drink of water. When she comes back, she's going to need to take a few steps back. If I were to just put this right up to her right now, you can see her go, ooh, what's that? She's going to be uncomfortable, she's not going to be happy with it. So I need to back up a little bit, just offer her the seat next to it, and go from there. Just because she took that break, she's kind of reset her head a little bit. She's gonna need a reminder that this thing isn't super scary. When it comes to really bad fears, you're gonna have to do this a lot. It's gonna be a lot of repetition, it's gonna be a lot of backstepping. Can you touch? Can you touch? Good. Before you get to a point that they're okay with it constantly, like I'll probably have to do this for a couple more days before Mia actually realizes that this thing is entirely okay and not super scary. Almost done? Good, so I didn't even have to ask her to touch that time. But you can see how quickly she reprogressed. So every time that they take a break or you start a new day, they'll need those steps back, but they'll remember faster each time. So although you do have to step back and you do have to reteach them that these things are okay, their brain kind of clicks in about halfway through and has that moment of remembering that, hey, you know, this thing's okay, this thing's not scary. You just have to take a bit to reconvince her. Good girl. So she's taken steps and she's actually reaching for this before I've made it to her. And that's really good. That shows me that she's totally okay with this object. That she's willing to move towards it, that her body is, or her brain, I guess, is realizing that this object is worth it. And that, hey, if I interact with this, touch, I'm gonna get something good. It's gonna be positive. It's gonna be a happy-go-lucky time. So that's exactly what we want, and I'm probably going to stop this here because she's got no problems with this. She's reaching for it, she's moving all over for it, she knows this thing's great. And that's probably where I'll leave this video. Alright, so that's going to be about it. That's all I think I'm going to cover in this video today. That gives you kind of the basics of how to handle a bird that's really scared. This isn't always going to work this way. If you have things that are really, really scary, it's probably best if you start on a table, put the object down, and just work on having the bird move towards it. Sometimes moving the object towards them can be way more threatening than them moving towards it. So if your bird is extremely aversive to something, where if you're on the other side of the room and they're freaking out on the other side, I would start with that. I would just put the object on the floor, leave it there. The exact same process, just a bigger gap of space and some smaller steps in between. But that's kind of the basics of how you would teach a bird that something isn't scary, that something is worth interacting with. Treats are your best friend for those sorts of things. If a bird is scared of your hands, I did briefly mention it a little bit in here, the relief of stress is also a reinforcer. So if you have a bird that's really scared of your hands, we're pretending Mia's still here, okay? I can put my hand at a distance that they present very small stress signals, so their eyes might widen, their bodies might stand up, you might see them tense up a little bit. Put the hand there for half a second and then take it away and back up. That to them is, I'm scared, I'm stressed, and then release. And that release is going to release dopamine and stuff. It's going to make their brain happy. It's going to be reinforcing. And doing that slowly teaches them that I'm uncomfortable. I told you I was uncomfortable, and you left. And that starts helping build some trust and stuff. Hi, Miss Peeps! Peeps! So yeah, that release of stress is positive to the brain. As weird as it seems to you, because you're not giving them a treat, you're not giving them something. The removal of stressful things is also reinforcement. It's actually called negative reinforcement, because you're removing something stressful from the environment. It creates a positive experience for them. So if a bird's not taking treats from your hands, or they're quite scared of your hands, and a long sprig of millet and things like that aren't working, taking your hands away, backing up, giving them a sec, presenting your hand again in a way that only presents very small stress signals, and then backing up again is going to be how you're going to get to that point where maybe you can approach the cage and leave the sprig of millet there and then back up. Maybe the bird will go eat the millet, and you can move from there, progress, where you might be able to keep your hand next to the millet and have them try it. So I hope that helped. I hope that explained things a little bit. I'm sorry I can't do a full proper video on how to tame a super fearful bird, because I don't have one, and I don't feel like lying and pretending like, oh, my bird's terrified of my hands, and then she's totally fine and the steps are all faked. So I would much rather show you something that Mia is a little bit scared of, and hopefully give you guys the tools you need to figure out how to solve that problem on your own. Because unfortunately I don't have a bird that is terrified of hands, and I don't plan on getting one at this present moment in time. So I'm not going to be able to fully do a video on it. This is kind of as close as we're going to get. If you do have a bird that's really scared of hands and doesn't know how to step up, you may also want to watch some of the tutorials on teaching a bird to step up and desensitizing them and target training, because they will do very much the same stuff. They will be showing you how to build that trust, how to get to those steps. So I would definitely go watch those two videos if you haven't already, because they'll provide a little bit more insight into working with birds that don't know how to step up. That video was done with Newt, because he was only semi-tame when I got him. So the two videos that feature him learning target training and step up will go a little bit more over how to deal with a bird that isn't totally confident with hands. Newt wasn't fearful. He was okay with taking treats from me, so that will make it a little different than some situations you might be in. But hopefully those kind of 3 videos together will give you the tools you need to figure that out. If you guys do have any other questions or things I need to clarify, do leave a comment down below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!